Hello everyone, my name is Prince and I'm the founder and CEO of OrgEvo Consulting. And a lot of times I get this question of what I exactly do and how do I help businesses. So this is a very short video to explain our entire methodology of how we systemize business using systems engineering and enterprise architecture. So here's a quick introduction. So OrgEvo Consulting basically solves few key problems that most developing growing businesses have. So you will find a lot of times that leadership is stuck in daily firefighting and they don't have time to develop or grow their business because they have to be in sales, they have to spend time in operations, and they're just too busy to build the business. Instead of that, they are caught up inside the business and become an employee of their own business. And a lot of times, businesses are people driven, not system driven, especially when they are new. So that means when if key people leaves, the business cannot function, and the knowledge with that, whatever knowledge they had, it walks out of the door once they leave the company. We solve that problem as well. And if there are no systems or processes in place, the people, even if you hire really talented experts in your company, they run around like a headless chicken, and they are not able to perform better, and then they leave because they just can't handle the pressure of chaotic systems. And even though there are SOPs or job roles, nobody follows them, and there are a lot of SOPs or processes which are not defined at all. So we help with that as well. And a lot of times when you hire people, you don't have the training resources available, and you don't have time to build them because you did not document the SOPs and processes. If you had SOPs and processes, you can actually train your employees better, and you can hire at will at that time. So employee hiring could be easy, training challenges could be easy. The poor performance of employees, that can also be handled because you have clear set of SOPs and KPIs defined in your company. If you don't have it, those are some problems that we also help with. And a lot of times business owners don't have clarity of what really is the business. What do I really do? What is happening in the entire company? They have no clarity about it. So mapping the business activities, and modeling the business and creating dashboards, we can solve it. I will tell you how we do all those things a little later. But yeah, so these are some problems that we solve. And there are times where you buy the software but nobody's using it. Uh, Only 14 to 30% of software implementation are successful. 70 to 80% of digital transformation interventions are unsuccessful, and we try to solve that as well and digitize your business. And a lot of times people actually face issues with expanding the business. The problem is that if a system is not really stable, and if you try to grow it, you can put in money, you can hire more people, you can get technology, but if the system is not stable enough to grow, it will collapse. It will reach a certain height and it will come down. And a lot of our clients actually face that problem, and we solve that as well with systems engineering and enterprise architecture. If you have proper systems defined, franchising and replication becomes easy. So we solve that problem as well. And of course, for mergers and acquisition and assimilation, so that means before merger and acquisition, we map the capabilities of both the companies, and I will explain you how we do that. But our services help in mergers and acquisition, and after the acquisition is done or mergers is done, the assimilation of the two companies becomes much more easier with our services. And of course, it builds a lot of investor trust as well. When you have clear idea where you're gonna spend your money, which activities or capability you're gonna spend your money in. So we help with that as well. And finally, overall, it's all about profit, reducing the cost and increasing the revenue using systems engineering and enterprise architecture. So these are the main problems that we solve, and I'm just going to quickly show you what are the services that we offer. Basically, we have just 3 services, and I'm just going to quickly go through it. So the first one is business modeling and process documentation service. We call it Accelerate O. So what this service is all about? a lot of businesses or consultants, they actually start with analysis of the problem and then they solve the problem. And a lot of systems engineers also focus on the problem first, and then they create system to solve that specific problem. And in most cases, that's good, but if your business is not really mapped and documented, if you do not have all of your assets, all of your information, data in one place, it is very difficult to do analysis. So what we do, instead of doing the analysis, we actually first discover everything about your business. Then we map your business, we document all of your business, we create a knowledge base, we organize it and create a knowledge base of all of your business documents. And then we do the analysis. And there are two problems that we solve after the analysis. One is process optimization, the other one is organizing people. And those are our two other services. So once, this is a common service, this is something that we do for all of our customers before we give any other service. So the second service, as I mentioned, is process optimization. So you have documented the business, you have mapped your business activities and processes. Now we have to find out what areas we can optimize. Now process optimization can be digital optimization, or it could be just non-digital optimization as well. So we do both, we help you with both. But in case you do digital transformation, if you want to add a new software, maybe it's the off-the-shelf software and you just want to customize it, or maybe you just have to create Excel trackers or trackers on Notion or Coda, right, or Airtable, we help you with that. And if you want to build the entire software as well, we from scratch, we'll help you with that. And for that, we basically use TOGAF. TOGAF is a framework for systemizing and mapping the business and transforming the business. So we will talk about all of those things a little later. But yeah, we use TOGAF to do digital transformation. We also use Archimate framework for mapping the business architecture, the process architecture, and technology architecture. And then once those architectures are created, creating dashboards and reports and trackers, we help you with that. And then we create the project charter for how do you do the digital transformation. We have our vendors who help us with implementation of off-the-shelf services or softwares like Zoho or Odoo or HubSpot or Sales CRM or any kind of application that you really want to implement. And we also work on the entire implementation governance. We take care of the project. We work with the software developer vendors, and based on our architecture, they actually deliver the software. And you might be thinking, why do we need to create an architecture first? Why don't we just get the software and start using it? Look, as I mentioned, only 14 to 30% of digital transformation efforts are successful. And one of the main reasons is that there is no proper architecture defined. There is no process clearly defined. And I will talk about that in a bit when I talk about the methodology. But for now, I will just mention that if we do this way, we create the architecture and add that and then do digital transformation, you will save your money because you will not be wasting your money in buying applications or technology that you will never use, right? So the success rate is much more higher, 3 to 4% higher, 3 to 4 times higher than going without it. So think of it as an insurance to ensure that you get the right solution for your business. So anyway, so that's our process optimization / digital transformation service. And the next one is virtual CHRO service. Now, I just want to mention, like, even if you have technology, you have SOPs and processes defined, role documents defined. A lot of time, unless and until you implement it and you manage your people, the implementation doesn't work. And that's where HR services are very, very important. And a lot of companies, they do not have a senior CHRO, chief HR officer available, to do all the other interventions to manage the people, right? So right from org design to HR operations to performance management interventions, talent acquisition, workforce planning, talent development intervention, total rewards intervention, career progression, succession planning, employee engagement and culture interventions, and at the end we stabilize and hand it over to you. So once all these implementations are done, alongside the digital transformation and the earlier process documentation service, the success rate of the implementation of the solution becomes much more easier. So we kind of train them on the new systems and technology that we have implemented as well. So yeah, so that's the third service, and these are the only three services that we give. We focus on processes and we focus on people. There are other companies, they focus on sales and marketing, and we don't do that. There are many consultants that do that. But anyway, so that's the overall idea. But let me just give you a rough idea of what is the entire framework that we work with. So basically, our entire focus is to use systems engineering and enterprise architecture in business management. That's an entire paradigm shift than the traditional business management approach. So let's see this. Okay, so you want to start a business, for example, okay, or you have already started the business, and you have certain motivation, and you know that you need certain amount of money, certain resources, tools, processes, certain capabilities are activities that you would do, agents, product, policies, governance, you will do change, and all of this happens in space and time, and you are in the environment, which is pestle, like political, ecological, technological, legal, social, economical, stressors or forces around the business, and you want to now create this business. The idea is business as a system, and these are the components. So if you are designing a business, because it's not a natural system, it's a man-made system, right? So if you're designing a system, how would you define how much money do you need, how many processes you have to create, what kind of tools and applications you would use, what activities you would do, where do you start, right? So at the beginning we have no clear idea of what we're going to do, and we assume that a system, especially a man-made system like business, is defined by its capability. Capability is what the business does, right? The activities that business does, right? And that's the first thing that we start with. So our philosophy is basically business is nothing but a collection of capabilities, a collection of activities. Who does it, when they do it, what tools you use, what the process is, how do you do it, those are secondary. Basically, business is just a collection of activity. And if we identify those capabilities or list of activities, then for each of these smaller activities, we can identify who's going to do it, what resources you need, what money you need, what policies you have to follow, what would be the output of this activity, the tools, the motivation, the process, how you're going to do it. This entire thing kind of becomes like a gene of this particular capability, right? And when we define all of these attributes for all the activities you're going to do in the business, you can get the entire DNA, chromosome, or whatever. You get the entire information about the business of what overall number of agents or people. Agents are like employees or stakeholders, customers. So you can define those things, and you will have answers for all of these things if you do the capability first approach. So I'm just going to show you how we do it real quick. So from philosophy to practice. So here's the first thing that we do. We try to understand your business, and we basically focus on 5 different models that we create at the beginning. The business motivation model, the business model canvas, the business development model, which is the goal, the org chart, and the business operating model. So let's quickly look at each one of them. So this is the business motivation model, right? This is where you start. This is, especially if you are a new business, you have to have a clear purpose of what you want to do, and we have a framework of how do you come to your purpose by identify the passion, potential, and problems that you're focusing as the owners of the business. And from that purpose comes vision, and you try to understand why the vision is not really achieved by someone else. What are the constraints holding it? What are the requirements then to fulfill this vision? And that will allow you to get to a particular approach or a value proposition, right? And from there you come up with a mission, and based on the mission you define the values that you have to deliver, that you have to have in a company so that you can achieve your mission and vision. So in reality it looks something like this. I'm not gonna spend a lot of time explaining it, but of course you can pause the video and you can zoom in and you can read the example. So this is something that we did for our business, and we have a clear set of purpose and vision statement, mission statement, and the values that we came to, the constraints that we the requirements that we have identified, and the constraints and our approach, and also as our assumptions. What are we assuming when we achieve this approach? So yeah, so that's the business motivation model. I'll move quickly over here. The next thing is business model canvas. A lot of times businesses have a clear idea of their business. They have been doing it for a long time, so we don't want to work with we don't create it for those companies. But new companies, startups, we create business model canvas. So we start with the customer segment, who the target audience is, what the problems they have and what we are trying to solve, and who the key suppliers are. And based on the capability or the capabilities of the people, or suppliers or capabilities, and based on these two, we come up with our value proposition. And when we come up with the value proposition, we start focusing on this part, which is the supply part. How do we supply the service to them? So this is our value proposition, this is our partner. So what are the key activities or functions that we have to deliver this value proposition? And again, what key resources we would need to deliver this value proposition from our key partners or from our capabilities. And this is the demand side, where you actually give the client. So how do you deliver the value proposition to your customer? So first, the channel of sales and distribution, and then once they become the customer, the channel to interact with the customers on a regular basis. That's a very standard business model canvas, and a cost structure and revenue structure, and it looks like this. So it gives you a little idea of what kind of business we are in and what we're going to deliver. Just an example, but it's not necessary to have it, but this is one of those foundational documents that we create at the beginning. The third model is the developmental model. Developmental model is basically coming up with the goals, 3 to 5 years goals. We stick with 3 years goal basically in the 4 areas of business. So this is the way we define organizational scorecard. That's profit, product, people, and process. Profit is everything related to your sales, marketing, and finance. Product is everything related to your product. You have to improve the quality of your product, the delivery of the product, the production of the product, things like that. And people could be any people, internal employees, stakeholders, or even customers. So you might have certain goals there. And then process is how the entire business operation works, because the goal is to have a business work like a well-oiled machine. It should work automatically, not with your support. So these are the 4 areas of organizational scorecard, and we create goals in all of these 4 areas. And we also identify the objectives, very measurable objectives, to show that whether we have achieved the goals or not. And based on the objectives, we come up with strategies and policies, and we work backwards from the mission to the the 3rd-year goal, 2nd-year goal, 1st-year goal. It could be 5-year goal as well. And from these policies and strategy, we also create developmental principles, or growth principles for the business, so that decisions are easy every year when you're on the crossroad of deciding what kind of goals you're going to follow the next year. You would have some guiding principles that will help you grow towards the right direction. And this is how it will look in real time. Again, you can pause it and you can zoom in and see it, but this is just a 1-pager that shows a clear view about how these goals would be measured, and we have measurable outcomes over here, and the strategies that we're going to follow, and the developmental principles that we will follow. So that's the developmental model. We also come up with operating model, right? But operating model is nothing but a list of, or the inventory list of everything in the business, right? So list of all of your products, list of all of your functions and value streams, departments, right? List of all of your agents, like the customers, the roles, the departments, the stakeholders, all of the people, the actors in the company, or even outside the company. List of all the tools, right? These tools could be equipment, applications, competencies, trackers. List of all the resources you use. These are consumable items: the budget, material, information, report, data. List of all the schedules, because everything is every business exists in time and space. So what are the schedules? What are the cadences? What are the events, recurring events, frequencies of things, right? a list of locations. So where do you exist, like online, offline locations, offices, factories, things like that, and also list of strategies, policies. These are the rules that governs the entire business, and we get something like this. Again, you can zoom in, but basically we try to map everything in the business, and once this is done, we have some clarity of what kind of functional org structure you have. So let's quickly look at how we create the functional org structure. Basically, we identify how what all departments you will have in the company, and what are the functions of each of the departments. That's a functional org chart, and I'll show you how we do it. We basically start with a customer journey. Now, this customer journey can be used for many things. So, if this is the customer journey, based on the stages, customer journey is nothing but a value stream, and there are stages to the value stream. So based on the customer journey, we identify what all departments you would need. So you need marketing, then you need sales, production, and then the installation, customer service, right? So if these are the core departments of the business, these are the main departments of the business, there might also be support departments like HR, legal, IT, admin, finance. These are the supporting departments you need to have in the business. And there could be some management department. They don't directly control or influence the delivery of the service, but they manage. So the governance, the total quality management, the branding, R&D, those are examples of support departments. Once we have idea of that, and we also identify the functions of each of the department, we create a functional org chart, right? So as I mentioned, there are three types of departments. The core departments are the main business, the sales, marketing, and supply chain, production, things like that. Support would be HR, legal, finance, and R&D would be or management department that manages the entire business. So governance, a CEO's office, for example, those kind of departments would be included in that. In real example, it looks something like this. This is an example of our own departments, and we have these departments, and these are our functions, right? So just so now you have a clear idea of what are the departments and what are the functions, or even value streams. You can also mention value streams here. But based on that, now we start mapping the business. So these are just foundational models, just for us to understand the business and for you to have a bird's eye view of the entire business. It's usually helpful for owners to have this. But yeah, this is where the real magic happens, the capability mapping, right? So we have already identified the departments, we have identified the functions inside the department. Based on those functions or the value streams, you can identify the capabilities inside that department. The capabilities are basically activities, right, for every department. Now there are 6 types of activities in the company, or in a department. The first one is the functional activities. These are direct deliverable output or service of the department, usually identified through value stream mapping, and I will show you how we do it. But this is the main department. These are the main activities of the department. These are done by the operational level people, and there are some enabling or supporting capabilities or activities as well, like administrative, logistical, technical support to the core operations or the core functional activities. So these are identified when you are mapping the values, when you're mapping capabilities based on the value stream of the department. But then there are also other activities that happens in the company. So if these activities, the functional enabling activities, are happening, there has to be some managerial activities as well, right? Which is all about managing the day-to-day operations, handling escalations, managing conflict in the people, managing the team, their performance, and also like tracking and reporting everything that is happening on a day-to-day basis. So those are managerial activities, right? And once these trackers and reports are filled, it has to be analyzed, it has to be governed, right? So there are other activities like monitoring and governing the entire activity in the business, the managerial, functional, enabling activities in the department, checking whether they are safe, the security, risk, policy compliance. So there are a lot of other activities that are also done at a governance level inside every department, based on the trackers and reports that are created by the managerial capabilities. Now you have these trackers and reports, and you have the dashboards and insights, right? Through governance activities. What you gonna do with them? You're gonna improve the department based on that. So there are two types of improvements: tactical improvement, which are short-term improvements, smaller improvement, and strategic improvements, which are large-scale strategic changes, policy changes in the department, right? So based on that, we come up with the tactical improvement. This is where the operational improvement happens. You can also have long-term changes as well, improvements as well, and that's basically at a policy level, at a strategy level, and the execution of it is also done at the tactical level, right? So yeah, you have 6 types of activities inside every department. This is, a lot of companies don't do it. And these 2 capabilities are usually at the operational level. Then the managers, they do the managerial capability, the supervisor, coordinator, manager level. The mid-management role, they manage the governance and tactical in every department, and the leadership role usually takes care of the strategic changes or strategic activities. So they are the stakeholders. So it looks something like this. So say this is we have a department, and we found one function or value stream. We identify different stages of the value stream, and we identify the business capability or activities at every stage. There might be supporting activities or enabling activities for every stage. So we have mapped those over here. And when we move to the a real-time example, so it would be something like this. So, if this is a value stream of product development, and, you have the design, development, operation stages, these are all the activities that happens at each of these stage. And these are supporting activities or enabling activities at each of these stages. So we map that, and then we put it all over here. So this is an example that I showed. This is an example of our own client success department. We have Accelerate O delivery and Org delivery, or DevOrg delivery and virtual CHRO. I mentioned we have 3 services. So these are the activities that we do in each of these services, clearly mentioned over here. We also have some supporting activities, the enabling activities that we do. Our consulting manager will do these activities, and we have some senior people who would do the governance and tactical work and the strategic activities. So all of these activities are mapped. A lot of companies, they just have these activities, the functional SOPs for functional activities. They don't map all the other SOPs for the other activities, and the top leaders have no clue what they are supposed to do apart from just making other people do the work. So so we map all different types of capabilities, and once we have created departmental capability map, we can merge together to create the organizational capability model, and so it looks something like this. So this is an example of our department. So I showed you, I cannot zoom in over here unfortunately, but you can see, if you zoom in, these are the capabilities or activities inside our client success department. So the client success department that you saw over here, these activities, we have it all in this department, and we have our sales, we have marketing, we have software development, and HR support function, and so now we have created a map with every activity. This is a map that will show every activity that you do in your business, and not just at a functional level, but also at a role or people level as well, based on the roles, like who's going to do what. And this map now you can use for anything. You can create all sorts of heat map with this. I will give you an example of how do you do the heat map analysis with this as well. But you can create all sort of heat maps with this. So here's an example. So this is the same map that I showed you earlier. This one, right? This is the same map, but now I just changed the color, and now if I can just focus on any parameter for which I want to do the heat map. So if these are all the activities I do, which activities are technologically mature, which activity I can do digital transformation for, I can color code it, which activities have process issues, which activity has quality issues, the policy issues, like where the performance is low, which activity I'm spending a lot of money, which activity gives the maximum revenue impact, right? For merger and acquisition, as I mentioned, you can create a capability map for the 2 companies, and you can identify, which capabilities are same in the 2 companies, which capability are better in company A versus company B, and which one has to be merged, which one has to be deleted, which one has to be added. You can do all sort of stuff. Even if you get investment, right, you can show which activity you're going to spend money in to improve, because that's gonna give you the best bang for your buck when you get the capital. So you can use it for many things: for wastage, for quality management, for budgeting, for defining roles. You decide the parameter, and you can create heat maps with that. And we'll give you some sample heat maps as well. But you can do it yourself as well. But you can do all sort of analysis and then create heat map. And on the basis of the heat map, you can decide different interventions. And we take care of two types of intervention, as I mentioned: process optimization and people organization. So we're going to talk about that real quick here. And you can do this for departmental level heat maps, departmental level capability maps as well, right? So here we mapped all the activities, as you already know, but we color coded it with the roles, right? So process analyst, so we at this level we have two types of roles: consultant and process analyst for this department. As I showed you earlier as well, in the past, we have these activities in our client success department, and that's exactly what we are looking at over here, but we just have the color coded version over here. So these are all the activities that consultants do. These are all the activities that managers do. We have director, client success personnel, so they do these 8 activities, and the chief consulting officer does these 3 activities, right? So now you have the ability to map it. And again, it's not just with role, you can create all sort of heat maps. But anyways, we'll come to that a little later. But let's move on to the next step. You will say, okay, Prince, we have all these activities, we know the roles associated with the capabilities or activities the business does, right? By the way, not all activities could be considered capabilities, right? An activity for which you have to create a proper SOP for, it is small enough to create a SOP for individually, but it is large enough so that it cannot be misunderstood as a task. Those are the activities we are talking about. Capabilities are what the business does. The process is the how, right? How do you do that capability is the process. So we're going to talk about that in a bit. But once you have mapped everything you do, and process can change. Process is very dynamic. It can change. The tools you're going to use can change. The people who would do these activities can change. But what you do in a company, that would remain more or less the same, right? So that's why we move with capabilities. And this is the best way to visualize your business. Now, based on the role map, you can also create a role-based org chart as well. I'm just giving an example. You can do a lot of more different types of mapping, but yeah, role-based org chart can also be created. But let's move on to the process documentation. Once you have all of these capabilities, it doesn't end there. We need to create something called a capability canvas. Now, a capability canvas is similar to an SOP, but it's much more broader. It has much more depth in it, because we are using enterprise architecture, and we do process documentation from a point of using that document to create a business architecture and technology architecture. So I will show you how we do that as well. So the first thing is, for every activity that you have seen, like, so here, say for example, you have business foundation workbook documentation or goal discovery. That's an activity, right? So for each of these activities, we create a process document, and this is how it looks like. This is called a capability canvas, and we have a proper definition of the capability, the motivation why we do it, the KRA or the objectives of achieving that, right, of that activity. What is the output of it? What's the service? Capabilities are like a mini service in your company as well, right? So everyone is delivering service to someone else inside the company or outside of it. So what is the output or the result? Who's going to do it? Who's responsible, accountable, consulted, informed, right? What resources you're going to use? These resources could be psychological resources, like, intangible resources like focus, budget. Budget is just a conceptual term. It's not really money, right? It's not a physical resource. Unprocessed information, or mental energy or focus, those are psychological resources. You have physical resources, which could be tangible things like raw material, money, printed documents, and printed forms or contract checklists, things like that. And digital resources, these could be data, consumable digital files, graphics, icon. So digital resources are there, and then there are tools. Tools could also be psychological, physical, or digital, right? So you can have competencies or skill set or knowledge or attitude. These are psychological tools. Physical or methodology, that could be psychological tools. Physical tools are, raw material, equipment and tools or hardware, IoT devices, machineries, and things like that that can be used again and again. And finally, digital tools are like your application software. So we map all of those things. Then we also map where this activity happens. We map when it happens. What are the triggers? Is it a time-based trigger or event-based trigger, duration, stuff like that. Then this is where we write the process or SOP part. This is the SOP part, right? So we identify the process or function. Process is nothing but collection of steps in a numerical format in a proper order. You have the tasks or steps, and the procedure is how do you do that task or the steps to do the task. That's the procedure, right? So we map all the processes. Usually one capability would have one process, and in each of these processes you will have tasks inside of them, and then you will have procedures to complete those tasks. And also the key consideration based on policies, and these policies could be based on the strategy, compliance, quality, safety, security, regulatory policies. So some key considerations to when you're doing this capability, when you're following the process, and also the metrics. How do you measure it, right? So there could be input performance metric, output performance metric, key behavioral indicators, right? Or other indicators like key risk indicator, key control indicators. What are the sensors or trackers or reports or dashboards you're gonna use to govern this activity? So we make a list of all of those things as well. So this is what you have as a capability canvas, right? And as we know, a role is nothing but a collection of capabilities, right? So a role performs certain capabilities. So, and we have the documents for each of these capabilities. We have capability canvases for each of these capabilities. We can create a role design document for it, and this is a template for that. So we can have the role overview, the capabilities this role performs, who it reports to, and things like that, the competencies needed to do these activities, and what kind of interview you have to conduct, or what kind of instruments you can use or questions you can use to check whether the person is eligible for this role. Also the execution of the capability. So each of the tasks or the capabilities inside the company, and when do they do it, what are the triggers, and where do they do it. So this will allow us to create a proper calendar. We also identify the training and development plan for this role. So if you hire them, how would you train them, how would you upskill them? And also the performance management, right? So based on the KRA, KPIs, KBIs, OKRs, right? Based on this, what are the metrics that you're gonna use to assess the performance of this role? And later on also the career progression pathway, right? So what's the next role, what capabilities are there for the next role, and what are the additional skill, knowledge, qualification they would need to do that role, and what are the developmental plans or action you will have for that. So now you have a role design document as well, and you can use this for all sort of work. You can use it for hiring, you can use it for creating JD, you can use it for customizing your performance management system or HRIMS and things like that. Also developing training documents. So we create this document as well, and these are the two main documents: the work that's going to happen and who's going to do it, right? So this is from a people's point of view, of course. Once this is done, only after that we will do any kind of intervention. So this is where the business mapping and process documentation work gets over, right? And next thing we do, oh, by the way, we create a knowledge base of it as well. So we have department folders which has roles, and inside roles we have capability folders, and inside capability folder we have the capability canvas. But all the other things also you can put it over there, like checklists, templates, applications. We'll help you suggest what you're gonna have, and we will help you create the knowledge base for your department. So every role, when they come in, they will have access to their role folder. And inside the role folder, they will have access to everything they would need to do every capability that they perform. So now you have a proper role-based knowledge or document management system, right? So this is where the accelerator or process documentation service ends. But now we have to set up the enterprise architecture, and this is where we go a little advanced. A lot of companies don't need this kind of advancement, but some companies, they don't just want to have the process and documents in place, they also want to create applications and software and trackers to automate the work, right, to systemize and digitize the work. And this is where we use enterprise architecture to create to create the current architecture of the business, and then based on that we will work on improvement of it. And I will quickly go through it. So as I mentioned, we have our capability canvas document, right? So the same capability canvas document can be converted to a visual capability canvas. So there are enterprise architecture tools like Archimate or Sparks EA or Sparks Enterprise Architect or Abacus by Evolution or Orbis Infinity. The tool doesn't really matter, but basically from that SOP document we can identify all different types of elements we need in our architecture design. So we will identify the agents or the roles, which department, which employee is going to do what is the process and the process steps over here, the motivation, the tools, the cost, the skill set, competency needed, what data object we need, what application elements we will have, what technology elements we will need, the laws, the policies, the rules, the KPIs, the value stream resources. So we map everything from that document. And once we have mapped or created a visual version of capability canvas for all the activities in the company, now we have all the assets. And we can create views for, if I want to see all the purpose or objectives in the company, I can see that. If I want to see all the type of customers, if I want to see all the departments in the company, I can see all of those things, right? So so we have all the elements necessary for creating our architecture. So this is just identifying the elements in the company. But if you organize it, I want to see it in a process flow. The same elements can be rearranged and we can create a value stream architecture or a capability architecture. So this is a business actor, and say I'm not going to spend a lot of time over here, but this is usually the yellow part is the business architecture. You might be already aware of Archimate framework. This is the Archimate framework. There are customer role, customer actor, the service the customer gets. There is a process that gives the service to the customer. There is a business actor, usually the employee, and there are business objects like documents or tools or whatever. And this is the application layer, and this is the technology infrastructure layer. So I'm going to show you a little bit later in detail. But yeah, now we can use these same elements, and we are using the same colors as well. We have additional colors as well, but the blue and the green and the yellow is the same, and we can create architecture. So here's an example. I just rearrange these same elements, for example, and create the capability architecture for that one capability, right? We identify the customer. This is the process: registering, acceptance, processing, payment, for example. For claims, the data is customer information or payment data. If these are the process steps, these rounded rectangles are the services. So these are business services that we give to the customer, and these are application services that is given to the processes inside the company by the software. So CRM software, case management software, finance software gives this service at this stage of the process, right? So the yellow one is the business process architecture. The blue one is the application architecture, right? And the green one is the technology architecture and the services given to the application. So it's, and again, you might ask, okay, Prince, what's the use of this? Why do I need it? So here's an example. Okay, you want to automate the business, you want to have systems and processes in place, you need trackers and dashboards, right, to track all the data. If we map your business process clearly, and then we can identify what kind of trackers you need to build, what kind of, and we already defined it in the SOP document, right? The capability canvas document, what kind of document you need to create. We have already identified it. So we can now create those things. But now you say that, Prince, we want to build a software, or maybe we don't want to build it, but we already have off the shelf software. We just want to arrange it in this processor and customize the process, the software, so that it is in alignment with the application, right? And here's a very important part, right? If the business process is not really defined, and you buy an application and the application process and the business process don't align, then people will not use that application, because people will think that it's just additional work. They have to follow their old process, but they have to now also do the same something else on the application. So they don't match, and people don't adopt the technology. So, but if you have mapped the business process first clearly, and then customize any software solution based on your business process, right, then the success rate is 4 or 5 times higher, that people will actually use that application, right? And that's why it is very important. So, and most of the time you might not need this. You can also build based on this architecture. You can actually build trackers and reports on Excel or Coda or Notion, or any simple app tools as well. But yeah, you can also use this part for digital transformation or customization. But you can go a step further. Maybe you say, what, I just don't want to build an application, use the application. I want to build it on my own server, right? And so that's where the technology infrastructure layer comes in, right? If you want to build it in-house in your application. So a lot of companies have their own custom applications. So yeah, so we can build the technology layer as well, right? And sometimes you have to combine the capabilities together, which is a part of the same value stream, because it's capability. Just creating architecture for capability is not enough. You have to combine them together to have much more broader architecture as well. So we can create a value stream architecture, and we try to map all the current architecture. So this is an example where the sales happened, the production happened, and the delivery happened. There are 3 capabilities merged together, and we have an entire value stream from ordering to delivery. And this is the business process, and this is the application architecture and all. Now this is a very simple format, but it can get really, really complex. I just want to make it simple, so I'm just sharing this example with you. But yeah, so a lot of, but you can go deeper in each one of them, right? And I will give you an example of how do you do it. Like, say now you have the current value stream architecture, you have the capability maps and architecture, you have all the elements defined. Now you want to do improvement. You want to now find out where the improvement can happen. So first and foremost, we have to come up with strategy. Now you have to understand, every strategic execution is a capability change, right? What do I mean by that? If you come up with a new strategy, right, that we will start using biometric for our attendance, if that's the strategy you want to follow for achieving any kind of goal, right, to make sure that the employee attendance is marked properly and the salary is given properly, if that's the goal and the strategy you came up with, having a biometric technology with it for marking the attendance in your company, if you decide to go that route, how do you implement that, right? You create some policies to achieve that strategy. If you have biometrics, then you have to create certain policies that between this time and this time we will follow it and we'll organize it. So you come up with certain policies, and based on those policies you will build some activities or capabilities. So if you already have a attendance marking capability or activity, you will update the process of that. So instead of, maybe earlier they were writing it on a register or logging it using online portal, now they will be using biometrics. So the process document has to be changed. So either you update the capabilities or you add a new capability. Now you created biometrics, somebody has to organize the data of that biometric. There is an additional activity that will be created for this strategy. So you add few capabilities, and the old capabilities can be deleted also. So every strategic implementation is a capability change. Either you stop doing something, you start doing something else, or you just update the document or the process of how you used to do it. And how do we go about doing it? So there are stakeholders, they have drivers, they will do the assessment, identify based to achieve that driver, what is the problem, they come up with goals, they define clear measurable outcome, and they come up with the principles or requirement to achieve that outcome, and they come up with strategies, and the strategy will be affected by capabilities. So it looks something like this. Like, for example, a CEO has some goals, and say customer satisfaction is one of its goal, or development process slowness and complexity, maybe that's the driver. These are the drivers, not the goal. But based on that, they did an assessment, and they realized that they need to have efficient customer service. That's the goal. And the metric to check whether they have achieved the goal is that 20% increase in customer satisfaction, for example, right? And what is required for that? So the requirement is a single point of contact, that's required, and also digitalized services, which is required for this, right? So these are the requirements. These you can consider as maybe strategies or whatever. But to achieve this requirement and all, they come up with a new strategy called digitalization, right? If this is the strategy, then you have certain capabilities associated with that strategy, right? And then we build that strategy around. So if I just zoom into these two sections, we get something like this. So digital strategy, that's the strategy. It's a part of a value stream maybe. And digital customer management, that's the capability that you want to develop, for example, right? So you identify, okay, to do this activity, what are the resources needed? We need customer or support data, and based on these resources you kind of create architecture, the business architecture and the technology architecture, and that's how you can come up with new capabilities for a company for digital transformation. You already have created, we anyways create the current capability architecture in advance for you, right? Capability or value stream architecture. So sometimes you just want to update it. So for example, here if I already have an architecture, and I just want to find out which capability I have to update or change. So I can create something like this, and we have a legend like, okay, this is a new thing that we have to do, this has to be clarified, or this has to be removed, right? And we can just color code it. We can also do it at a capability level. This capability we have to remove, this capability we will keep, and we have to update it. So using the current architecture as well, you can decide what needs to be changed. You can come up with idea which part of it can be automated, which part of it AI can take care of, because you already have the architecture in place. Same way, application architecture can be created. So if you want to create a application architecture, so we can do that. We can create technology architecture that is connected to applications. It gets a little now technical, but the whole idea of me sharing this with you is that once you have mapped the document and documented your processes, you can create current architecture, and whenever you want to do any kind of digital transformation service, any kind of digital transformation intervention or automation, AI implementation, you need to have these things in ready, and then you can customize it and create it. And we give all of these things to our partners, digital transformation partner or software development partners, implementation partners, right? So we come up with the entire plan, the migration plan, come up with, okay, if these are the capabilities we need to change, these are the things that we will change inside of these capabilities at a particular given point in time. Like, we divide it into phases, and based on the phases, we also define what are the work packages or the deliverables for each of the phase, and then we also come up with the entire implementation roadmap to govern whether the deliverables are being created or not by our technology partner. Of course, we can use Gantt chart, PERT chart, and those kind of stuff as well, but we also do it in a visual format, so it's much more easier to see what we have done, what we have yet to do, and things like that. So the software implementation can be managed. All of this thing can be managed over here. So that's the overall methodology that we will follow, and why it matters. Because look, here's the thing: business is going to get more complex, right? If I actually want to see the future, what's coming in the future, the data is gonna be huge. There would be so much of information or data that human intelligence would not be enough, right? To make sense of that data, right? Business is simple. It's a it's one of the oldest professions, right? But why it is complex now? Because the world has become very complex, and with AI and new technology, if you're not taking advantage of those things, business will still be simple, but you know that you will not be able to survive if you do not take advantage of the technological innovations and all. So how do you manage that complexity? And even human intelligence will not be enough. You have to put it in systems, and even softwares will not be enough. You have to implement AI because the data is going to grow so complex. You know, the world's going to get so complex. So you need to have technological edge in your business, and you have to be ready for it. And this service gonna bridge the gap between, unorganized businesses to automated system driven businesses in the future. And I think even if we don't like it, that's the world we are moving into, and we have to be ready for what's coming. And the most important thing of this approach is that, leaders who are at the top level, they understand the strategy, they understand the big picture, but they do not understand the technological nuances, right? So the IT people who are building these softwares and technology, and they don't understand the business people, and the business people don't understand the tech people who are building the applications and all. So there is a communication gap. So enterprise architecture, Archimate, or unified modeling language, these are the tools that kind of narrows the gap between the founder's vision and the implementation and development of application, right? And when you do this way, you are ready for digital transformation, and you can come out of the daily firefighting, and the business would work on its own, and you can handle the complexity that's coming your way. So yeah, so that's pretty much it. So if you are interested to discuss this further, by the way, I just want to mention the applications over here. So you can use this for organizational development, performance management, talent development, employee engagement, workforce planning, process improvement, operation digital transformation, of course, IPO preparedness and due diligence. Because if your system is organized, investors have more trust on you. And then funding, mergers, cybersecurity, any kind of accreditation, ensuring that you follow all the activities based on certain standards or accreditation that you follow, franchising and stuff like that. So yeah, so you have all of these applications, and all we expect from our clients when we are working with them is that it's a top-down approach. So we need leadership commitment. It has to be done by the leadership. We have to dedicate time and focus to review the interview documents that we do, when we do the interviews, we ask questions, review the documents and SOPs that we share. When we work with our clients, we ask them to involve all the cross-department functions. Everyone should participate, because it is not, at least the head of the department should be ready for it, and adopt an openness for systems thinking and structure transformation, not just quick fixes. We don't give quick fixes. Ensuring internal ownership or post delivery. So these are expectations that we have from our clients, and we need one specific person who would be our key person we will talk to, the main custodian of all of these enterprise architecture related items and models. And something that we don't want to do is rushing the process. Look, a lot of businesses, they have spent years in doing their business, but they do it in an unorganized way. It's very ad hoc. It is very improvised way of doing things. Nothing is really set in stone, or proper SOPs are there. So for small companies, it gives them agility, of course, but after a while, when you have understood how the business is done in your business, what is the process, you have to document it as soon as possible, so that when you hire other people, you will do it. And you cannot fix that problem. You cannot fix a problem that you spend years or even decades to create in few months. It's a short term, it's a long term process. It takes a little time, but with the help of AI, the benefit of working with us is that if traditional enterprise architects, they work they spend a long time building this. Like in 6 months, we can do it in 2 months or 1 month, right? So that's the benefit of working with us, because we have our own custom AI models that helps us, come up with these architectures and solutions faster. Of course, we don't focus on partial implementation. We don't just focus on one department. We do it for the whole thing. At least the process mapping and documentation has to be done for the whole thing. The software development can be done department wise or project wise. Uh, we have to ensure that after the delivery is done, there has to be someone who actually takes the ownership of the deliverables, takes so that we can hand it over to them. And if you have the opportunity to have a EA function in your business excellence or digital transformation team, get that created. We'll help you with that as well. And of course, the usage culture. So a lot of times people kind of like create these solutions, but nobody follows it. So the governance and all is something that we need to have. So we don't want to just create something and then forget about it. It has to be used, and we'll follow up, and we hold our clients accountable to ensure that they are following up. We follow up with them to ensure that they follow or adhere to the new processes or systems that we have created for them, or any updates that can be done. So yeah, so that's the thing. So that's about us. And with us, you just don't get me, but we have a whole team of people who would help you set up the entire system. We make sure that you have everything you need, so that you can you get a whole team helping you in creating the enterprise architecture, not just one architect. And yeah, so yeah, we have these philosophies. I'm not going to get into it, the video is already too long, but yeah, these are some of our clients. And if you want to know more about our services, just connect with us on Upwork for further conversation, right? So if you found this video on Upwork, connect us over there. And if you have any other questions, and if you want to connect with us, you can visit our website or contact us at contact@orgevo.in, or call this number and we'll be there to help you out. Well, thank you very much for your time. I know it was a long video. I wasn't expecting how long it would be, but I hope you learned something. And if you're a process consultant or a business owner, I think you can try to do it yourself. But yeah, instead of wasting time in doing something like that, call us. We'll help you out with that. Thank you very much for it.